Here comes Dr. Fred's got your back for life. Every day and every night.
Hi there. Welcome to this episode of the Real Money Doctor Show. We're going to be restoring this. We haven't done this in a while. And the thing is, times have changed. Economic situations are really off the wall at this point in time. And a lot of people are really concerned, do I have enough money to retire? So I'm going to be covering that today. And we're going to go in depth on that. And I'm going to have my producer, Ryan Ruff, help out with this episode, though.
Hey, Dr. Fred, appreciate you, inviting me on to help facilitate the conversation today, because it is a big one, right? We're diving into a question that you're asked so frequently by a lot of your clients. And frankly, it's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves day to day. And that is, am I certain I have enough to retire? So to start with today's conversation, Dr. Fred, let's have you address the why, really. Why would you say this is such a big topic, such a big question that people are asking themselves, especially in today's day and age?
Well, what happens is, when you're 20, you think you're going to run the world, no big deal, and you're busy with life events. 30, you're in the thick of things. 40, life is going fine. By the time you hit age 50, you're at the halfway point, and you've been working all this time, and now retirement is on your mind. And what's happened is, you just couldn't save enough. Things have happened, and you got life events. Okay. You got weddings, you got divorces, you got the kids going to college, you've got shifts in the market, you got changes in unemployment. And a lot of people, they plan on retiring and they want to retire and they think about it, and then they have to hold off because something happened. And they hold off for a year or two or three or longer, actually. And then you get another group of people that they go to retire and they think they're doing well. And within 6 months to a year, they're back looking for work again. So that's pretty much the problem. They just haven't saved enough. They couldn't save enough no matter what they did. And at age 50 plus, they also run the problem of maybe they had a great job and they were making nice dollars. And then at 50, 55, especially in the corporate world more than anything else, they get shifted out. And all of a sudden, the corporation's trying to get rid of them because they can hire some kid out of school a whole lot cheaper.
Absolutely. Dr. Fred, I think for anybody out there in our audience, I would imagine there were a handful of situations where somebody was thinking to themselves, oh, that's me. I'm one of those people. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that can set somebody back in terms of making sure that they have enough to retire, given all these life events, market events, shifts in their norm. But Dr. Fred, before we get a little deeper into this idea of, am I certain I have enough to retire? I think it'd be helpful for our audience if we bring them up to speed on who you are and what you do and why it is that you're even sitting in this chair here today as the Real Money Doctor addressing challenges like these. Tell us about yourself.
I've been doing this for a while now. And my biggest concern at this point in time, again, I'm retired. I've been retired for a number of years. And my goal is, how am I going to help people to retire in the next 3 to 5 years without risking a dollar in the stock market? And it's a real big challenge. And in retirement, you need something to do. And this is pretty much my life purpose at this point in time. How many people can I get? Show them how to get, protect, and enjoy their money, their life, and their retirement. And that's what I do right now. I have a good time doing it.
And Dr. Fred, additionally, I mean, you've seen a lot of things happen. I mean, nearly 4 decades in the financial services sector, working with money. I know you found your niche here at, towards the latter half of your career, really your retirement career, if you will, going into this, retirement planning efforts. But tell us a little bit about some of those things that you learned in the path that led you here in those 4 decades in the financial services sector.
That sounds terrible, 4 decades. It really does. I've close to 40 years, but you don't think about it that way. 40 years in financial services, last 26, 28 basically, as a certified financial planner before I retired. And what I found is that by the time people are age 50, they've already had pretty much a dozen jobs for the most part. And things have just happened along the way. And they've had 30, 40 years of work. And at age 50 now, they don't have the money. And they like to have the money, but they've got an exceptionally short period of time to do anything about it right now. So they realize where they're at. Okay. They try and put it off as much as possible. And then the question right now is, what do you do that's going to make any substantial difference? And again, 40 years worth of financial planning that I've been doing, And I stayed on the tax side of things as much as possible because they didn't like selling products. Mutual funds, life insurance, and annuities, it just gets old after a while. And I felt really cheap about it. So I stayed on the tax side of things. And what happens is I'm looking at all this financial planning and everything they do, and the best they're going to get, the absolute best a financial planner is going to get you is maybe 8 to 10, 12% on average over a period of time. Well, that's great if you're 20 and you can put $1,000 a month away every month from age 20 to age 60. But at age 50, that hasn't happened for any string of reasons. And now all that traditional stuff just isn't going to work. There's no way it's going to work. It's impossible.
Yeah. You don't have and talk about time. You don't have that 30 to 40 years extra now to make that work. You're out of time per se in terms of putting in that $1,000 a month in at that percent growth. So Dr. Fred, I mean, basically there's no way of putting it other than you are well versed in this space for decades, really, in the financial services sector. You've moved into the short window retirement planning efforts, and I understand that there are really three big factors. You and I had talked about it prior to sitting down today to record the episode. There are really three big factors that people should be considering when they're faced with this big challenge. That challenge of, oh boy, do I have enough? Am I certain that I have enough for retirement? Let's showcase these three factors for our audience. What are these? I know we're going to dive into each one here in a moment, but set the scene, if you will.
You're age 50, things just happened. You didn't expect things to happen, because, you went to school, you got your job, life is happy, and life is just coasting along until something happens. And something always happens. It always happens. In the best of lives, something always happens. And we don't know how the best of lives. And so you lost work at some point in time. Okay. You saved money. You were doing a great job. And then something happened. You had to pull the money back out. Never quite got back there again because you weren't making enough. It was just paying the bills as you went along. And then what happens is you get there at age 50, you're saving your money, and then the market crashes. The market crashes every 7 to 10 years. Okay. Financial planners will very, very reluctantly admit that. They hate to admit that, but they will. If you really press them, it's going to crash every 7 to 10 years. And this is why people go and they think they're going to retire. They start to retire and then have to go back to work because something happened to the market and their money just isn't there. And then the third thing is they all go for these financial calculators. And I love financial calculators. They're all over the market, and every brokerage house has one. And you plug in your numbers and they tell you need 1.8 to 2.3 million to retire. Well, at age 50, you're only sitting on $100,000. You're not going to get to that number. You're never going to get to that number. And people get frustrated at that point in time because all they can see is that I'm going to end up working until I die. And it's unpleasant. It doesn't need to be that way because there are things you can do that'll make a substantial difference that financial planning traditionally just isn't going to do for you.
Yeah, sure. Dr. Fred. So, and in recapping kind of those three, really the idea of traditional financial planning is it doesn't give you the extra 30 to 40 years of help because you don't have those 30 to 40 years if you're at age 50 looking at retirement planning. That being the first. The second, of course, that idea of the market, it's going to crash at some point down the road. And while the market has its advantages, there's also its disadvantages, and the crash is going to obviously hurt your portfolio along the way. And then finally, as you put that financial calculator, you don't need that 1.8 million, or you're never going to get to that number, if you will, of 1.8. You don't necessarily need a certain massive chunk of money to get things going. This is kind of a common misconception. So these big three factors, I want to kind of unpack each of them a little differently. That first one that you mentioned, let's get back into that idea of traditional financial planning. Again, you've had 40 years of experience here in the financial services sector. You were a CFP beforehand. Tell me about a little bit deeper why, in fact, this isn't the route to go if you're feeling the need to make up for lost ground in your retirement planning.
Well, at age 50, almost everybody's trying to make up for lost ground. It's very scary. And I get people that are making $40,000 a year with $10,000 in savings to people who are making $400,000 a year that have 1.2 mil already. And they're all nervous because things happen in the market. And they all know that, yeah, the market's going to crash every 7 to 10 years. Now, again, I've been doing this for 40 years, and you know that. Again, 26, 28 as a certified financial planner before I retired. And that's all lovely. But in all that time, not one person has ever told a client, if they understand it themselves, that once somebody goes to retire, they're going to have to live through at least 2, possibly 3 stock market crashes while they're physically in retirement. What are they supposed to be doing for money at that point in time? If they had a hard time before and wanted to hold off retirement because the market crashed, what are they going to do when they're already retired by their choice or not? Okay. And then the market crashes. And it can take up to 17 months to get back to break even. 17 months.
It's wild, and you're stuck between a rock and a hard place at that point in time. You're hearing that you need this exponential growth. You don't have time for that exponential growth within dealing with your money in the market, and then of course there's the idea of the crash that could happen every 7 to 10 years. You're just stuck in this amoeba of space in terms of what you can do to actually take a positive action step forward for yourself. And then there's that other consideration that you mentioned, this idea of people thinking that they need to be at X number for their retirement. Like, you had mentioned the 1.8 million. I know in prior conversations we talked about people that, other thinking that they need 200,000, 300,000. Where they get that number is beyond me. But let's dive in here particularly. Why is this wrong? Why can that be kind of detrimental to the way you should be thinking about making up that lost ground in retirement planning?
I was a certified financial planner for a long period of time. And there's a lot of nice people out there. They're just somewhat misguided. Okay. And there's some bozos out there, just the way the world works. But even if you got the best intentioned financial planner working with you, the best he's going to get for you, the best he's going to get is an 18% return. And they think that's thrilling. And you would normally think that's thrilling too, but they only get it for a year. And then they're back down to 3 or 5%. Okay, for the following year. And so you don't have the time at age 50 to do anything like that. And yeah, they all go to financial calculators. They all need that number. And the financial planners love to show you these graphs. Okay, well, if you do what you're doing right now, you're going to run out of money once you retire in 2 years. If you do what we ask you to do, then you're going to run out of money in 6 years. The problem is you're going to run out of money no matter what you do. Now, the other thing they don't tell you is you have a certain lifestyle right now. It's not a grand lifestyle. It's an okay lifestyle. You feel comfortable with that lifestyle right now. You don't think you're a king or anything. You're just a normal person. Live a normal life, and that's okay. In order to maintain that lifestyle, though, you don't need 50% of your pre-retirement income. You need all of it. And you're going to find things to do in retirement. And what happens is once you go to retire with traditional financial planning, is that they never tell you until you're there. And, okay, now what do I do? Well, you have to start cutting back. They didn't tell you that ahead of time. But the more you go into retirement, if you're working with a financial planner, the more they tell you to keep cutting back.
Interesting.
Was that your idea of retirement?
Yeah. Man, that is an interesting thing to consider as well. And so given this whirlwind really of different factors that are somebody's up against when they're hitting this moment of, oh man, am I certain I have enough to retire? And maybe the answer is no. And then they look at these 3 big factors that we just mentioned. It can be a daunting task. You feel like your options are pretty darn limited at this point, but we know that's not the case. Dr. Fred, talk to me. What's the alternative then? What have you been working on with your clients that showcases and can answer this question for people and show them kind of a true path forward that can help them answer this question really and get them on that path to making sure that they are certain they have enough for retirement?
Okay, that's a good question. And for years, I didn't have an answer to it. For years, I didn't even think about the question. And so once you're there, and then all of a sudden, yeah, what the hell's going on here? And people go on the internet, and there's tons of information. And it's all over the place. And at age 50, people start cruising the internet, trying to find out what can they do. And they buy courses on trading. And they buy courses on trading options and stocks. And some of them try it. and they end up losing money. So yeah, they're at least looking, which is important. Okay. And the biggest thing is, no one's going to be looking at your money as closely as you do. So if you're working with a financial planner, that's great. But trust me, they're not anywhere near as concerned with your money as you are. Nobody's going to watch it the same way that you watch it. So you need something that you can watch, that you can control. If you dump into a mutual fund, you have no control over that. Well, there's asset allocation. You can put some in this fund and that in that fund, and who cares? It's all in a mutual fund. It all responds to the market, some way, shape, or form. No matter what you do in the world, financially, it's all affected by the market. If the market crashes, everything goes down. I don't care if you're in stocks, bonds, real estate, gold, cryptocurrency, God forbid, okay, that you're playing in that game, okay, everything goes down. So what do you do that you can control? And at this point in time, traditional financial planners will routinely try and sell you annuities or life insurance, index life insurance. Interesting products, not a problem. If the market crashes, they don't take a hit. No problem. If the market goes up, they only get 4, maybe 5% of the market gain. So again, you're in the same position in that you're protected the downside, but you've got no upside. And at age 50 or older, you need the upside, but you need the upside under your control. None of those financial products will do anything that's under your control. So it took me about 10 years, well over $350,000 of my money to research this thing, okay, develop it, test it, retest it. I call it short window retirement planning. And it allows somebody to take a $5,000 trading account and never be in the stock market at all, because we're trading 2 commodities, and generate the cash flow they're actually going to need. Because that 1.8 to 2.3 mil that is in a financial calculator, it's a lovely thing. Okay, it's only there to generate cash flow for you. So you don't need that big number. It would be nice to have it, but it's only there to generate a cash flow. If you can generate the cash flow without that, you're just as happy. Maybe a little bit more happy, because it won't take a hit then. So that's what I do. Again, it's commodity trading. It's not a commodity trading program. It's a retirement program. And the idea is that you're not stuck in front of a computer all day. You're not risking all your money, because it's a ridiculous thing to do. And you talk to financial planners and you mention the word commodity and they go crazy. Their hair lights up. Okay, you're going to lose all your money. Well, if you put all your money in, yeah, you can lose all your money. But we're only talking about a $5,000 account to begin with. And what I've developed is a system where you're only in there for a maximum of 4 days. And you're only risking 2 to 5% of your account on any trade. So if the market crashes, how badly can you possibly get hurt?
Dr. Fred, this is super, super interesting. And I think it's always helpful whenever, at least for myself, especially, but whenever going through and learning a new concept, a new strategy or something, it's always helpful to have an example, even a story, if you will, of that illustrates your point, illustrates this idea of short window retirement planning, because it is quite the concept. It's a newer concept that you have, worked through, battle tested, and have made it work. And you're seeing, its effects on not only yourself, but also clients of yours down the road. Do you have a story or an example that you could share with us that might illustrate, why in fact short window retirement planning is the answer to this big question that we mentioned at the top of the show? If somebody's saying, "Oh, am I certain I have enough to retire?" Why is it the answer?
Had a guy not too long ago, maybe 6-8 months ago. Nice enough guy, Billy Ray, little town in Kentucky, and he's 66. Widowed, so he's by himself. 2 kids, they're out of state. They talk occasionally, but he's 66, and he's on a call with me. Tells me what's going on with himself, and I said, "Oh, this is not good. Can I help this guy or not?" Then he proceeds to tell me what his day is like. He gets up every day, day trades the markets for 4 hours. He's day trading the markets for 4 hours every day, every working day. After that, he finishes that, and then he goes into a 6-hour shift at Home Depot. The guy's not having a good time by a lot. He's not making any money day trading. It's just barely breaking even. And he's living off of what he does working at Home Depot. So I said, look, Billy Ray, look, I understand your situation. I feel for you. I'm going to let you in the program. And I showed him what it does. It can generate $250,000 a year in basically 3 years. And I let him in. And the first thing we did was save him 20 hours a week. He quit day trading. That was a disaster for him anyway. He quit the day trading. So he saved a lot of time and all the aggravation that went along with it. And he's in the program, and he says, I'm going to get out of Home Depot in 6 months. I said, well, 6 months is really pushing it. I don't think that's going to happen. But he's a determined kind of guy. I figured, for where you're at with his lifestyle, what he needs for income, I figured at least a year and a half. But he thinks sooner. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But he's just one guy that I could help. He found there's a light out at the end of the tunnel. He went for the light. He's doing things. He's progressing through the program nicely. And we'll see what happens.
Wow. I love that. And so if you were to highlight it, maybe list a few key takeaways from Billy Ray's story, and really, just our conversation as a whole today, Dr. Fred, what would you say some of the key takeaways are? If somebody's asking themselves this question, am I certain that I have enough to retire? And we've answered that question today here with short window retirement planning, but what are some of the key takeaways from his story?
I think the biggest thing is, you don't need $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to start with. In any other program, you're going to need a lump sum of money like that. Leave your money where it is. Put in just, $10,000. Start with $10,000. Okay. If you have at least $10,000 in savings, you're not lost. You do have a future still. Because most people feel that if I only have $10,000, I'm going to be working till the day I die. It's not really the case once you've got new information. And the thing is, you can only work so many jobs. Okay. And you don't need to work a second and third and fourth job because there's only so many hours a day anyway. And at age 50 plus, do you really want to be doing that nonsense? No, so you don't. You can cut back. Okay. Once you've got a plan in place. Your plan A was this job and this career and this retirement. Well, that didn't happen. Okay. It doesn't happen for most people. So you need a plan B. What are you going to do that's under your control? Here, okay, you've had 30 years that were not under your control financially. And in less than 6 months, you can get your finances under control, start with this $10,000 and find that, oh yeah, life is okay right now. I don't feel quite as bad because now I have something that I'm working for that's under your own control. And you can do it in less than 20 minutes a day. And you don't need a degree in finance. Okay, this is a really simple thing. I developed this so that my then 15-year-old kid can do this thing.
Wow. So 20 minutes a day, you don't need a massive amount of money to be able to put in. You're not risking a ton as well. You had mentioned I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but what was it, 3 to 5% of your portfolio typically within these trades?
2 to 5% per trade, yeah.
There you go. So the risk itself isn't massive by any means. And, the writing's on the wall here, folks. This is such an interesting concept moving through the short window retirement planning. So then the question that begs to be asked now, Dr. Fred, is if somebody wants to adequately address this big question and give themselves maybe a little bit more peace of mind, knowing that they're actively taking some steps to make sure that they do have enough to, ensure a great retirement and a lengthy retirement, what would be the best course of action to get in touch with you to ultimately secure that retirement that they envision for themselves?
Well, at this point, people generally have 2 real choices. What they do is certainly up to them. They can continue doing what they're doing, okay, cruising the internet, looking for things to do, looking for ways to make a difference, okay, trying to find something. Once you find something that looks good, try it and see if you can't get it to work. Okay, all that sucks up time, which at age 50 plus, you just don't have. Okay, or you can go with something that's tried and true already. I've been doing this since 2008. Same process. My process has not changed from 2008 to today. Getting the same serious returns, always, every year, outperforming the market every year. And you can do that and make a serious difference in your life pretty quickly. So it's not all that complicated. It's not that difficult to do. People can just go to my site, drrousenow.com, and take a peek at this video there. And it details more what we're talking about here today.
Alrighty, Dr. Fred, thank you so much. And hey, look, we want to take one final moment, folks, as always, and thank you guys, our audience, for jumping aboard and being with us. If you took anything away from today's conversation and you benefited from it in any way, shape, or form, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on whichever platform that you did check us out on today. That way you never miss out on a future conversation between Dr. Fred and myself, where we unpack a different question, a topic, really a challenge that so many folks are facing in the world of retirement planning these days. We're tapping into Dr. Fred's 4 decades worth of experience. We're leveraging some of the short window retirement planning efforts that he's doing with his clients. We've got a lot of great conversations ahead on the show that we'd hate to have you miss out on. So for Dr. Fred, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate you stopping by and being with us here on the Real Money Doctor podcast.
Yeah, 'cause Dr. Fred's got your back.